said, my name is Mandy Conrad, and I am a registered dietitian with the Health Promotion and Wellness Department. So you may be wondering why the dietitian showed up today to talk about stress. So who in here is stressed? You always see those surveys of like your biggest fears, and like public speaking always ranks higher than like dying, So, it lets me be the expert on the topic while I'm up here. But to tell you a little bit about my background and to kind of weave it into how it goes along with stress. So way back when I was trying to decide what is it I want to do when I go to Mississippi State, I knew I was interested in health. That's kind of as far as it went. So I looked around. I decided to major in fitness management. So went into fitness management, really liked it. I took a nutrition course towards the end of that experience and realized, oh, this is what I'm interested in. Well, I thought, I'm going to go see my advisor. So I went and talked to my advisor, and guess what? Okay, that sounds great, but you're going to have about 2 more years of coursework to finish out here. So I said, no, thank you. I think I'm good. I'm happy. And so I went ahead and finished out in fitness management. And I had the opportunity to work down in Jackson at the Baptist Healthplex. And so it was a great job. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun in that I got to work with a lot of different people, a wide variety. So I worked with individuals who were in cardiac and pulmonary rehab. I worked with individuals who were part of the doctor-supervised weight loss programs with the hospital, just everyday exercisers, people to come into the gym, and even some of the athletes at MC who were working on some of their preseason conditioning and things like that. So it was a wide variety, people who were sick to people who were young and healthy. But the one thing that I noticed, and that continued to pique my interest in nutrition, is that all of these people were very different and had a lot of different goals going on, but there was a common denominator, and one was they all wanted to be healthier. It looked very different for everybody, and in that striving to be healthier, nutrition always came up. And as I was working, I didn't really like the fact that I kind of had to stop there, and pass it on to somebody else. So I had the opportunity to come back to school and finish out in nutrition and then continue on into health promotion. But I say that not just to tell you my background, but to kind of point out how nutrition weaves into so many aspects of our life. And as the email that went out said, we know there's a link between nutrition and stress. People who have a healthy, balanced diet are less likely to be stressed than people who have a poor diet. But one thing I really want to bring into the conversation, and that I'm somewhat passionate about, is eating healthy and making healthy choices should not add stress. Has it added stress to you trying to be healthy somehow? Okay. Because I sit down and talk with people one-on-one, and like when I first got out of school, it's like, okay, here's all this healthy stuff we're going to do. And you see people and they want to, and somehow you start seeing a pattern of like, wait a minute, on paper looks very different than when you start trying to make it work, okay? So people are coming to see me and they're stressed out and they're wanting to be healthier. So that's kind of the direction we're going to go. Let's see. So are we calm? We're going to talk about getting to the stress part of it right now. So again, I want to let you know just how experienced I am on stress right now. So mid part of last week, it was actually last Wednesday night, so not even a full week ago, I'd had my day, been really busy. This time of year, everybody's really busy. So I got home and it was like, relaxed time. So I did that really smart thing that we do, and I pulled up my work email, right before you start to relax. And so saw my email like, oh, I'm excited about your talk next Wednesday. Blah, blah, blah. Can you send us some information? I had it on my calendar for like a totally different day that was further on down the road than this. So my relaxing time all of a sudden went, we were like, what? So I learned the first tip. I thought, well, here we go. Tip number 1, to not be stressed, don't check your work email at home, okay? Don't do it. Okay, that's easy. So you've decreased stress right there. So as I'm calmly telling my husband about all of this, you know, I'm starting to think like, okay, I took a few deep breaths. So this may sound silly. Have a happy place. So we all have a different way to kind of bring us back. So I was going to show you my little happy place. So you see this right here? This is my little black lava rock from Hawaii. Hawaii is my happy place. Now, when I took this rock, I have one that I honestly keep this in my pocket sometimes, and I rub it. It's very smooth, okay? Because when you rub things, they get smooth. And so it kind of reminds me, brings me back to my happy place, kind of takes me away from whatever stress is going on. So I sometimes have one in my pocket. I have one sitting on my desk. I have a few of them. I will admit, I realized when I got back home with my rock that I wasn't supposed to take that rock. So I probably can't ever go back to my happy place, or like the volcano gods of Hawaii will get me. I didn't know that, so I'll deal with that stressor when the time comes. But it is true, having a quote, having a saying, having something that you know works for you. That rock is silly. That rock does absolutely nothing, except it just kind of calms me down. Third thing that I learned quickly last Wednesday was write it down. So I was kind of like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm so busy. When am I going to figure this out? I wrote it down. You write it down. You get it out of your head. And I wrote down 3 quick points. You can then move on. So I'm bad that how sometimes I deal with stress immediately is kind of how you jump around with your, waving your arms. Write it down and get a plan. So those 3 points, we could go home right now, or we could just take a nap right now, and we would be done with it. So, but we're not going to, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. I'll pull in some more nutrition info, but that was my research that I did for you guys. So when I started brainstorming and thinking, I thought, okay, what do I want to do for an icebreaker? I've been to some things on stress, and sometimes it's been really creative. So we've blown bubbles, or we've stretched, or done some kind of exercise. And so I thought, that's it. Fitness. We'll do something. My background, I have a background in fitness too. We'll do something with fitness. So I found a meme that I feel like really brings this all together with fitness, with stress, and with eating. Is that how sometimes we like to deal with it? I love that dog. I mean, is that not? So, is this how, have you ever dealt with stress like this? I mean, I think we all have. So, let's talk a little bit about what stress is. All right, so I asked at the beginning who is under stress right now. I saw lots of hands. So a lot of times we definitely know what stress feels like, all right? Sometimes you may not realize what you're feeling is stress, all right? Especially the chronic stress that we come under. So feeling fatigued, feeling tired, feeling sluggish. Sometimes you'll go to the doctor because you think something has to be wrong. I'm so tired. And nothing really is found. Everything seems fine. Ask yourself, could it be stress? It can manifest in fatigue, okay? It sounds like this may carry over into the pro chat coming next time, but as far as dealing with situations, sometimes we don't deal with situations the best way possible when we're stressed, as far as maybe we act a little ugly, we're a little irritable, and it may not be the normal you. Have you ever noticed how the vacation you is a lot different than the work you? Oh, you're so much nicer. So oftentimes that is stress coming into play. But then with eating, some people eat less, some people eat more. We tend to, when people eat more, they like to just say, oh, I just don't have any willpower. But stress plays a role in that. And it is so important to realize that how those are connected. So here we have good stress and bad stress. All right, good stress, you've probably heard of these things. So that's just when you're really going through a transition. Say you've gotten married, you've taken a new job, you have a new baby, you're just getting used to something new, something different. And then bad stress or distress is when something not so good is happening, okay? So, being unprepared, conflicts, things like that. Within these two categories, there are a couple of other kinds, especially with the distress, the bad stress. There are a couple of other types, and those are acute and chronic, all right? So acute stress is going to be, say you're driving down the road, listening to the radio, you've got the window down, you're feeling good, and then blue lights come on. And you're like, and it's like, and so hopefully it was just a little boop, boop, just a little like warning, like, hey, I see you there. So hopefully that's all it is, and you're okay. But if that happens, have you ever had something where it kind of gets you, and then you're drained? You're like, oh, you kind of get those jello legs, okay? So you had that surge of adrenaline, that stressful situation. Your body was ready to take it on. So that happens. That's more of an acute stress. Chronic stress, though, that's the more ongoing stress, which can be related to ongoing work stress, not that that's what's causing any of your stress, or relationship stress, or financial stress, or things that are just not going to go away really soon, okay? Those are more linked to the disease aspect and the health aspect of stress. Then we have new stresses coming on in our life. So something called techno-stress. And this is kind of maybe what I brought on myself checking my email at home because I could. Because work doesn't always stay at work. You don't necessarily leave things behind. Even if you do, it's always there, always accessible. It makes it hard to find boundaries. It makes privacy more of an issue. Sometimes you put things out there. That's where then if you're irritable and angry, you can put things out there that you might not otherwise do or have the opportunity to do. It interferes with family time. And then even computer dating, online dating, we have new things coming at us that we hadn't quite figured out how to deal with in the past. And so lots of different ways that stress enters into our life. So first off, let's look at a few general ways to reduce stress. And so this is just going to be from an overall approach. So there we have a picture of, a group of people. So it is very important, first and foremost, to look at the people around you that can help. Now, all of these examples are going to be ones that at least try these things, okay? Now, a lot of times with chronic stress, it gets to where you may need to seek out some help, seek out a counselor, seek out some extra assistance to get through. But like they were saying at the very beginning, make sure you are taking care of some things that you can take care of that are inexpensive approaches to begin with, all right? So making sure that you have the support that you need. And you think, well, I really don't. What can I do about that? Well, look around. When you surround yourself with people who help to build you up or feel better, recognize that. There are people who do that for us, and there are people who bring you down. If those are the people you gravitate to complain, gripe, things, if you leave those conversations feeling worse, that is only building the stress. Again, you may not realize that is stress that is building, but recognize situations that make you feel better and those that leave you not feeling so good, okay? Music is one of them. That's very, very simple. Tons of research looking at how music can reduce stress. The type of music that reduces stress is kind of different for different people. So kind of going along in that area, something that you enjoy as well could kind of fit in that category. Some of these things, like I said, this isn't rocket science here, but it's going to be things that you have to slow down and take note of, all right, and make time for yourself to do these things. One at the bottom, sleep is huge, okay? Oftentimes, stressful situations cause us to actually get less sleep. Less sleep causes us to be more stressed. So, it's recommended that we get at least 8 hours. Some people need a little less. Some people need a little bit more. Saw some research that recently came out that said women actually need a little bit more sleep than men. Again, everybody's different. But I feel like for many of us in society now, lack of sleep is almost a badge. Like, I didn't get any sleep last night, or I just kept going on 2 hours. It's kind of something that we say with pride at times. It will catch up with you, and if you are feeling stress, pay attention here, all right? And then exercise. Now, I have the Sanderson on here, but then I have somebody just out going for a run. It doesn't have to cost anything, all right? Sometimes people see that and go, well, I can't afford to do this or that. Going for a walk, okay? These things, you can find the research to support. Again, just saying, don't discredit the simple things. Sometimes we like to jump ahead and make it a lot harder than it has to be. These things help reduce stress. You don't have to do all of them, but see which one, when I was talking about them, was there any one that you said, oh yeah, that might be a good indicator of where you can start of something that's going to work better for you. Okay, so here we go. Here we're going to get talking about some nutrition and stress. So, how do we bring these two things together? And with this, guys, if y'all have any questions, we're going to have questions time at the end, but feel free to stop me. I like it being more conversational, so you won't throw me off if you have questions or if I explain something that you want a little more info on. But strive for a balanced diet. Okay, so that sounds kind of generic. It kind of is. So what is a balanced diet? Well, with this, again, don't make it any harder than it has to be. Sometimes when people are trying to eat healthy, it's kind of all or nothing. Like I have to eat everything perfect, or it's just going to be fast food all the way. All right? So first off, make sure you're giving your body the foods that it needs from all the different categories. Okay, so when we talk about whole foods or supplements, things like that, as a dietitian, it's kind of a joke that we kind of like real food over supplements. But because we know that all the different ingredients in food, all the different nutrients work together. You pull them apart and they don't have the other ones to help out, sometimes you don't get the same benefit. So carbs, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, the phytonutrients, the antioxidants, you are going to utilize them best in the presence of all those other things, okay? So that's why the good old general recommendations to eat your fruits and veggies and lean meats and things like that, it's not going away, okay? Because that is going to be the basics of it. So with that, if you're eating a lot of fast foods and things like that, it could be a product of what's causing the stressful situation. One thing I want to point out with a balanced diet, though, is people always ask me about supplements. And, you know, with supplements, again, they aren't going to work in the body as well as real food oftentimes. You have to worry about side effects and things like that. But you cannot supplement and fix a poor diet. You've just got a supplemented poor diet that's going to cost you more money, okay? Now, if you want to take a good old general multivitamin just to maybe fill in the gaps where you think you might be missing, you know, that's not a bad thing. But if you are trying to take supplements but you know that your diet is not in check, then you're kind of defeating the purpose. And again, it's wasting money. I'm not saying that to burst bubbles. I'm just saying save your money. Also, if you are having a hard time getting in enough fruits, veggies, lean meats, things like that, you go, oh, I just can't do that, it's too much trouble, then don't be surprised when you have a hard time sticking to this really rigid, strict, trendy new diet that comes out, because that's not going to be easy to stick with either. I say that because I see people who do that, and then they blame themselves, like, I don't know why I can't do this. It wasn't you. The diet was the problem, not you. So don't set yourself up for something that is probably not going to fit in with your lifestyle. Now, and we're going to talk more about the nutrition aspect, but the things to avoid in excess, caffeine, sugar, alcohol. Of course, if you're stressed and you're using alcohol to fix it, that's something that's a whole different conversation. As far as caffeine goes, that cycles into where sleep and stress come in. So if you are using caffeine to stay awake, stay alert, to get through all the things that you need to do, it may be that having that extra caffeine is going to increase problems with getting enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, that's going to increase your stress. So it keeps that cycle going, all right? So there's nothing wrong with caffeine, but when you're using it to fix a situation, it may be compounding the issue. Also with sugar. Now, sugar right now in mainstream is kind of like really evil, really bad. So I'm not going to say that at all. I'm more of like, we can figure out how to make all of this stuff fit and work. But with sugar, you have to be mindful of how it can impact how you feel. So if you're going, oh, I'm really dragging, I need a little pick-me-up, and you get something that's really sugary, it will give you a little pick-me-up for a couple of hours, but you've probably all experienced that crash is coming. All right, it didn't fix the issue. The stress is still there, the issues are still there. Then it just kind of makes you feel more sluggish later on. So let's look at how our everyday life and nutrition start interweaving. Okay, so we're going to look at this behavior chain. Can anybody tell me something that happens to sometimes get your day started on the wrong foot? Wake up late? That's the most common one I hear, whether I ask students or whatever. Wake up late. Another one I hear often is no parking spot. Oh, you know, that does not start your day well. So then you end up being late, even if you didn't wake up late. So that leaves you feeling stressed. Okay, so you start the day stressed. What's something else that might happen that's not the best thing going for your day?
Can't find your keys.
Oh, you can't find your keys. Oh, you lost your phone. Maybe that's just me. Okay, so you may have an argument with a coworker, a disagreement with a friend, or something going on. So then you started out stressed. Now you're kind of feeling down, like, oh man. It may be that you were stressed that caused the argument. You're feeling bad about it. Well, let's say that right here at the bottom, now, here we are. Now we get a chance to eat. All right? Once you're here, is that where you usually make your best nutrition choices? No. Okay. So when you get food available, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, this has to fix everything. So you eat everything you can get your hands on. You start like opening drawers, like surely there's something in here. And then you end up feeling guilty, the emotional eating and things like that. So this is a very, I hear laughing, y'all are chiming in. I've learned this from talking to people, you know, so very, very common. The deal with this is when you can recognize that these other factors were going on before the chance to eat. We beat ourselves up over what we ate, and we stop looking right there. We often don't then back up and see, well, what made me eat everything in sight? And should I feel that guilty? What was that? Did I feel better for a minute? Was there some positive that I can get out of this? We don't ever go there. We just use it as a negative, and it builds the stress further, okay? And as it builds the stress further, we're more likely to make unhealthy nutrition choices. So it's more of this cycle, okay? So the types of hunger that we typically do experience. So there's physical hunger, and that is when the body is trying to satisfy its physical needs with food, all right? So it is telling you, I need some food. Your stomach starts growling. I need some fuel coming in. But then there's also emotional hunger. So this is when food soothes us. It doesn't satisfy, it doesn't fix a situation, but it soothes us and it makes us feel better. And I think it is so important to recognize this and not just act like we need to make it go away, okay? So this is unrelated to the time of day. Doesn't matter really if you're full, but it often leads to feeling guilty. And why I keep bringing this in is because this builds stress. I see it every day when I talk to people about making healthier nutrition choices. So what can you do? And I love this picture of this little girl because she is just enjoying that apple. She's not thinking about, is it time for a snack? Should I have this? I wonder if this has too many carbs, or are these natural sugars? Are they okay? She's just eating an apple, and it's good. She's hungry. It's time for a snack. So we feel hungry. We eat because our body needs fuel, and that is so important to make sure you're taking care of that aspect, okay? Eating should not make us feel guilty, and it should not cause more stress. So I'm sorry if you really thought you were coming. I was going to tell you a bunch of foods that you thought would make stress go away. I just realized, like, you may be going like, I totally didn't see the direction we were going with this. But I like to back it up a little bit because I think sometimes we just keep putting the Band-Aid on things when we really need to back up. And if we're going to talk about eating healthy, well, let's bring it all together. Again, looking at how to integrate it with the overall lifestyle. So, dealing with, your emotional coping techniques, oftentimes that overeating that comes along to cope has some connection to the fact that we may not be giving our body what it needs. Okay? So that's what we're going to kind of look at. So here is a little flow chart. It's my little dieting dilemma that I want to kind of talk through. And when I say dieting, that may be restrictive dieting. It may be some type of eating plan that you're on. Now, at the very top, desire to be thin. Now, you may have gone on a healthy eating plan or a diet or something like that for other reasons than to lose weight. You may have been motivated by a health issue or a family member health issue. So there are lots of reasons why we want to eat better, to feel better. But a lot of times, so for the most part, if this is not you, then just bear with me and maybe you can get a tip to share with somebody that you know that it does apply to you. But oftentimes there is some drive to lose weight. And even if you're saying, I just want to be healthy and be skinnier. I mean, it's like that's what a lot of times people aren't wanting to say it because that puts the extra pressure, okay? That's where the stress comes in. So when that happens, you go on a diet. So when you're dieting, and we could talk a lot about how the body, when it is not getting the nutrition that it needs, it makes some changes to send you seeking food. Okay, the body doesn't like to lose weight. It thinks something's wrong. It thinks that it's starving. Okay, so when you're restricting, it causes you to start looking for food. You are preoccupied with food. There is so much interesting research looking at this, like looking at prisoners of war and their journals. They write about food. They write about cooking. They write recipes. When you have people, opportunity to see into people's lives who were truly in a state that they did not have access to food, the body is trying to make you seek out food. In this preoccupation, though, sometimes we start putting food on a pedestal. It starts getting really special. And so I always like thinking about the experiments you see where they put all these little kids, or they put all these toys in a room, and then they'll bring in a little kid and say, you can play with anything you want to in this room except the red fire truck. Do not play with the red fire truck. Do not look at the red fire truck. Don't think about it. Okay? You can put everything else in here. Then they leave with the camera on the poor little kid to see what they do. And what do? They go to the red fire truck. They just can't help it. Like, oh, well, it must be great. So when we put food on a pedestal, like, oh, I'm not going to eat cake. I can't have chocolate. Oh, it causes you to start thinking about it. So that is something that really does happen. So say the little kid starts playing with the fire truck. In real life situation, not if it's an experiment. They played with something they weren't supposed to. You get in trouble. So when we give in to these times where we eat maybe the foods we're craving, we think, oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. So food kind of becomes the enemy. So it starts interfering with our relationship with food, okay? As you continue to deprive your body of certain nutrients or restrict, that true biological drive to eat is going to continue to grow, okay? So the cravings are going to set in. Again, the body's telling you to go eat. It's not all just willpower. The body's saying, I need something. But that emotional aspect is going to increase as well because your body's telling you something and your mind's telling you something else. Like, oh, should I? I don't know. I want it, but I'm not supposed to have it. I mean, it's maddening. So at some point, you fuel the body. Whether it's you say, I'm never going to eat chocolate or I'm going to be on this diet until I reach X goal weight or whatever. I feel like most people have broken some rule right here. You're going to give in at some point. I mean, everybody in here, if you've done that, we all survived. It wasn't the end of the world, okay? But once you fuel the body, that oftentimes triggers a reduced self-control. So it's kind of that all or nothing. You're going to, feelings of failure, throwing in the towel. So then it's like, well, if I'm not going to do the diet thing, then I forget it. I'm going to totally swing the other way. So the cravings of those sinful foods, whatever the red fire truck was for you, you're going to say, well, now I can have it. And so with that, overeating oftentimes happens. So sometimes that is an emotional thing going on because you're trying to make up for lost time. But from a physical standpoint too, if the body is in a deprived state and food is in front of it, it goes, oh my goodness, the famine's been here and now food is here. I better eat it while it's available. And the body becomes very efficient at storing that extra energy you're taking in because it thinks the famine might be coming. So when you're restricting intake, the body is making adaptations to do more with less. The body doesn't want to starve. Luckily, we don't have to really worry about that. But again, I always joke, our body's kind of in caveman day. It's always just trying to make sure we're okay. Oops. So, with that, if weight regains, depends on how long maybe you were on a restrictive diet. If you were on it long enough to maybe lose some lean body mass and your metabolism slow down, sometimes you will regain the weight even more quickly. So all of that, it's, feeling undeserving, you try it again. That cycle keeps going. And back and forth, we could keep talking about this with different scenarios. It keeps pointing to the guilt and stress, and it points back to causing these things. So it is all interconnected, okay? So it's so important to recognize that if you have tried a healthy eating plan or if you have tried different diets and things like that and they didn't work, you have to make sure you are taking care of yourself along the way. Your body is not going to let you just like get it in a headlock and force it into losing weight. It's going to fight you, okay? Have to take care of yourself. So I don't know if you can see this. I love memes. So here we have in the top corner, we have the little raw diet, all these veggies, what I think I should be eating. Then you have what mainstream society thinks, what I really want to eat, what I start eating, what I end up eating, what I evolve to eating, what I end up eating. But I think this, like I saw this and I thought, that is so true. You start out with good intentions and you think that it has to be either this or this. All right? It can really kind of be all of them. And that's okay. All right? You can figure out how to make all of them work. So, but all of that conflicting information can leave you feeling trapped and frustrated. So, here are my top tips that really bring all of this together. So, again, this is kind of my little soapbox, okay? I feel like this is so important to make sure you are covering the basics. It seems like when I work with somebody and talk to them, regardless of what their goals are, sometimes I even challenge myself, like, okay, I'm not going to use that tip sheet because I bet we can go a different way. I always end up bringing it out because this is really the foundation to making healthy choices work for you so that you and your body are working together on it and not working against each other. So ideally, you want to try to eat something every 3 to 5 hours, okay? And I say that because it takes about 3 to 5 hours for your body to take the food you eat, break it down, digest it, ship it out, use it, and start eating something else. If you'll notice, that's usually you're going to get hungry within that time frame. Now, some people, if you've dieted for years or gone for long periods that you don't eat, some people's hunger cues have gotten a little bit off over time. So I always challenge people to test out trying to fuel yourself, even if your body's not telling you, and see if you can kind of get those hunger cues back on track. But some people look at that and they go, oh, that looks like a lot, but it's really not. I mean, if you think about eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, they typically fall within that range. Now, lunch and dinner might not, but usually we have a snack somewhere in there. So it's very typical eating patterns. You're going to fall within this. So if you see, though, that you're eating and you get hungry before this 3 to 5 hours, say you haven't been eating breakfast and you go, okay, I'm going to start eating breakfast. And all of a sudden you are starving. Does that ever happen? Like you eat something and you end up being hungrier because you started eating instead of letting these long periods go? So a couple of things to look at. One is make sure you ate enough. Sometimes if you're trying to eat healthy or cut back, we just try to eat a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and you never actually fuel your body. So what you eat should be able to last you at least 3 to 5 hours, okay? That's normal. If you're getting hungry in that range, that's okay. If you see you're getting hungry sooner, you may need to eat a little bit more. The couple of things you want to focus on would be making sure you have some complex carbohydrate. That would be fiber coming in, some whole grains or some fruits and veggies. That's going to keep you feeling full. But then protein, okay? Protein keeps you feeling full longer. So I see a lot, I work a lot with students, and they love the little Nutri-Grain bars that are quick and easy. There's nothing wrong with them except you can inhale them, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. Because the body's able to work through them really fast. It's going to send the blood sugar up pretty quickly. When the blood sugar spikes up really fast, the body tries to fix that. Sometimes it'll overcompensate and go, oh, let's get it down really fast. When it comes back down really quickly, it's going to trigger you out to go eat something to bring it back up. You throw some protein in, it's going to keep you feeling full. It keeps the blood sugar more steady, not so many spikes. So even if you go, well, I just love Nutri-Grain bars, that's what I want to have. Well, throw a handful of almonds with that. Drink some milk with that. Can you eat a little bit of yogurt? So add some protein or something to it will be helpful. A piece of fruit might add some extra fiber. And also, it doesn't have a whole lot of calories. You can't expect that much out of it, all right? You need a little bit more if that is your breakfast. So then, let's look here at this hunger scale. All right, this can tell you a whole lot, all right? And it can really point back, talking about stress and all those different ways nutrition and stress are interweaved in our life. This can answer some questions. So right here, neutral. That's going to be when we're not hungry, we're not full, you're just kind of here, okay? When you first start getting hungry, so that's going to be here. Hunger pains start setting in. That should be probably happening every 3 to 5 hours or so, all right? So usually, your stomach starts growling. You may just feel empty, but that's that noticeable sign of I need something to eat, all right? Well, have you ever been hungry and then you didn't eat something? Whether it was because you were too busy or you chose not to try to stretch it out, but you didn't eat, and the hunger kind of went away. Okay, so the hunger, you don't just keep feeling hungry. It'll pass. Like, oh, the hunger's gone. Well, what happens is the hunger's not gone. It's just your body said, oh, well, that signal did not work. She's not going to feed me. He's got stuff to do that's more important than eat right now. So, okay, I get the picture. So it quits sending these signs, but what happens is the hunger keeps on moving down here, all right? The next time hunger tells you what's going on, it's going to yell at you, okay? It's going to say, go eat something. That preoccupation with food kicks in, all right? Also, when you're here, you're more likely to crave sugary foods and greasy, fatty foods, all right? This is going to happen because if this is happening because you've waited a long time, or if you had, really simple carbohydrate where your blood sugar spiked and dropped, if your blood sugar's low, it may send you looking for something to kind of get your blood sugar coming back up. So it's not a willpower thing, okay? Your body's needing something. If you're craving greasy foods, warm foods, again, I always go back to my caveman example. So think about it. They didn't have fatty foods coming in all the time, all right? We have fatty foods readily available now. But that was kind of a treat if, the hunt went well and they brought something in. Fat makes us want to keep eating it because it's saying get as much of it while you can because it's not always around. It is for us. So we crave these things, though, because the body's not wanting to starve. Well, once you are here, so once you get the opportunity to eat, you're likely to eat until you get here, all right? Ideally, if you can notice it and eat in this 3 to 5 hour time frame here, it's easier to stop when you're at that satisfied mark, All right, now that's easier said than done. But you can start noticing, and that may take some trial and error. It may try cutting back some and seeing if it does last you that 3 to 5 hours. You may see that you cut back a little too much and like, oh, I needed a little bit more. That's okay. You know, you can learn from that. But also, it may help you realize, so say you are like getting up from your desk or you're home and you're opening the fridge and you go, yeah, I want something to eat. You think about, well, where am I on that silly little hunger scale she was talking about? And you go, oh, I'm not hungry. You know, you're looking for food. That is when it is important to recognize you are wanting something. We turn to food because it fixes a lot of things. It fixes the hunger physically. It fuels us. Hunger's gone. Physical hunger's gone. But if you're bored, it's something to do. If you're sad, it makes you happy for that moment. If you're procrastinating, it keeps you from having to do whatever it is you wanted, you're trying not to do. So our body learns that. So it's so important. So it doesn't fix what's driving you there, but it can help you recognize it, okay? So all of these kind of fall in with these 10 intuitive eating principles. So I just have these listed out. With that hunger scale, we kind of focused on paying attention to your hunger, paying attention to being full, but then all of these things. So looking at that cycle, rejecting that diet mentality of that you have to deprive yourself, recognizing that it's okay to eat certain foods if you're paying attention to when you're full of them. This satisfaction factor, that's going to be one of those things I always joke and say I'm never, ever going to encourage somebody to be a snob about anything except what they're eating. Don't eat it if it's not good, you know? So we know when you are craving something, those first few bites of cake or chocolate or whatever it is, they're really good, all right? The first 6 or 7 bites are the best, all right? So enjoy them, stop with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Where we start getting into trouble with ourselves is when we keep going, all right? So don't stop because you think, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. This is wrong. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I had too much. Just go, no, I'm only eating it when it's really good. And I'm going to stop now, and I can have some more tomorrow if I want to. Oftentimes we keep eating because we think, I'm not going to do this again. And so we keep eating now to try to kind of get rid of it, all right? So all of these things kind of interplay of how our relationship with food works. So here are just a few things to kind of take home, simple strategies to try that bring this all together. So recognizing that all of these external factors and checklists, they're fine to use as a game to kind of help you, but you want to make sure that you are listening to what your body's trying to tell you. Okay, don't stress out if you didn't get all the check marks. But what you want to do is make sure you are fueling your body so that you can avoid that deprivation and the things that come from that. Slow down, enjoy your food, wanting to make sure you are paying attention to that mindless munching. I promise if you use that little hunger fullness scale for a couple of days, you will notice something. I don't know what it is. You're going to see you're hanging out on a 1 or 2 more than you realized and heading over to an 8 or 9. Or you're going to see that you're playing around, you know, mindless munching when you've reached your fullness. You'll figure out where some of these things are happening. Also, learning to cope without food. So real quick, just want to say, if you find yourself overeating, don't stress out about it. But use that, see it as a red flag. That is a red flag that something else is going on. All right? So when you notice this red flag, that is when you kind of back up and go, what is something else that I need to address? So food can help in many ways. One, it can help to reduce stress by making sure you're fueled, but how you react and your relationship with food can help you identify other stressors in your life that we try to use food to fix. It's not going to fix it, but it can help you identify maybe what needs to be fixed. So I had a couple of resources. I'm just going to tell you real quick. Starting small, keeping notes. When you find something that works, write it down so you don't have to recreate the wheel over and over. That meal prep resource If you go to the Health Promotion and Wellness website on the Mississippi State website, if you go to our page and look under nutrition, we have a meal prep resource that can help you get a plan in place, all right? Email me if you have any questions about it. One of my favorite nutrition resources is called Old Ways, OLDWAYS. And if you search for that, it's got a lot on the Mediterranean diet, but it's got some really, really useful resources there. Look around on there. It's got some meal plans. If you go to the link that says Common Ground, it has a supermarket cart that has some lists and things. Lots of good stuff there. And then also with breathing exercises. And here's my little guy. He's just taking it all in. Also, if you go online, there are tons of little meditative breathing exercises that you can do. One of the simplest ones is 4-7-8, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. That helps bring oxygen to the body, and also it just helps distract you from those stresses going on. So those are just a few quick things. This intuitive eating, I have this book. I'm trained as an intuitive eating counselor, but they have a book too that I love that a lot of this information is from. You're welcome to look at that if you would like to. Lots of links to resources on the studies looking at intuitive eating. And here is my email address that if you start looking at these resources or get home and have any questions, please let me know. But for now, do you have any questions for me at this time related to nutrition or stress or how they are connected? Mm-hmm.
So you said avoid deprivation. So are you saying to not recommend fasting?
Okay, so the question was, he asked about deprivation and if I would not recommend fasting. So it depends on the reason for the fast. So you have to realize if you are fasting as a means of weight control or things like that, it might backfire. People fast for a lot of different reasons, and so for religious reasons and things like that. It's a little bit different there because usually there's some different internal motivations going on. Now, that's not saying that your body then might be craving foods and things like that. A lot of times with fast is to make you have to deal with those feelings, and it's in an environment that's not just the go, go, go. You're actually thinking about maybe some of the responses that your body's putting you through because of that. So does that answer? Is that what you were kind of thinking? What other questions?
Speaking of being on the go, as far as having snacks or something in the car, you can't just throw it around fruits and vegetables for a long time. What would you recommend just having handy?
Okay, so he was asking, so we're on the go all the time. What are some quick and easy things? It would be ideal if we could take around like our lean meats and fruits and veggies with us everywhere. But what are some good choices? Again, you want to always look for a complex carbohydrate and a protein, something to kind of balance that out. So if you can take a piece of fruit and keep some that might keep, an apple, think about the things that might keep in the car, and some almonds or some nuts or some things like that to balance that. If you know you're going to be where you can, cut up the apple or banana, and you can get the little peanut butter packs, and you can even get the little peanut butter or almond butter packs that have the little tear top that you can kind of squeeze. Trail mix works well on the go. Trail mix you have to be careful with because a serving is a very small amount, but if you are eating because you're on the go and don't have time to stop and eat, pop a handful, you're done, move on. Yogurt is going to be good if you have like a refrigerator at work. Also doing like the little cheese sticks. Cheese and fruit can be good. Cheese and nuts can be good. As far as keeping it cool, if it's only going to be a few hours, it's going to be fine. If you travel from your, if you're eating from your car a lot, it might be worth it to invest in just a little lunchbox cooler so that even just throwing in some cheese sticks and yogurt and things like that to keep them cool for a few extra hours, might be an option.
Curious to your advice to someone that has found that balance in their diet of nutrition and exercise, lost a significant amount of weight, still doing that, but all of a sudden start gaining it back while still doing those things.
So the question was, say that you were doing these things, making healthy choices, and lost the weight, and you're continuing to make these choices and seeing the weight come back. Is that correct? So with that, first off, I would just probably assess the day-to-day activity level. That may or may not have changed at all, but that's usually where I start with people, just because those are things sometimes you may not notice. If it is decreased, I see that in working with students a lot, because going from, if they're coming from high school, coming to school, and now they're sedentary, sitting at a desk a lot studying, their activity level has decreased. Same thing with job changes, and you may not realize if at one point you were walking across campus a few times a week and now you're not. So make sure paying attention that at work, at home, if activity level has changed or not. Then if it's gaining, I would probably also look at keeping a food journal and an activity journal for 2 or 3 days. I know, nobody likes to keep a food journal or anything like that. But just because if it's not something that you can readily identify, writing it down to try to do some investigative work and see if, this thing I didn't realize was adding up this much, or just trying to kind of pinpoint it. But that's hard because you can't quickly identify. So you really have to start keeping notes and digging deep and trying to figure out maybe what has changed you hadn't realized. And not get stressed about it. Any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for having me come talk. I hope you're able to take something you can use.